October 19th, 2022. I'm Matt Christensen, the Landmarks Chair. And let's just do a roll call, starting with Scott here at the end. Introduce yourself. We have some new members. We have 3 new members. You turn your mic on.
Thanks. I'm Scott Bingham. I live a few blocks from here in the Timpanogos neighborhood, 22 years, and I'm a registered architect.
I'm Jessie Ambry. I live in the Franklin neighborhood across the street from here, and I am a historian.
And I'm Matt Christensen, and I'm a neighborhood member in the Joaquin neighborhood.
I'm Susan Kruger Barber. I'm in the Joaquin neighborhood and an artist.
I'm Eric Carter. We decided, I think Provo South is my neighborhood. I'm also a licensed architect.
And then Dustin, do you want to just say your name so we know that for the record? Dustin. Okay, very good. Because this is so formal, is there something else we should be doing? Do we just treat it like a regular Landmarks meeting? I'm used to sitting around a table, so without microphones. Okay, Dustin, why don't you walk us through, we've got 2 items on the agenda. Is that accurate or just 1? I thought we had 2, right? Oh, okay, very good. So Dustin, will you just walk us through the first item, please?
Is this on? There we go. Okay, so item number 1, if you read that in and then we'll. Sure.
Okay, item 1, Jeff Knighton requests a Landmarks Certificate of Appropriateness for a new entrance to be installed on this corner of Provo Town Square in the DT1 General Downtown Zone, located at 12th West Center Street in the downtown neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. So the property here, University Avenue, Center Street, the northwest corner here is the bell tower that we're looking at today. Outlined there in red, and sometimes this will work. Oh, there we go. Sorry. Okay, so this is the property that the applicant's requesting to do exterior modification to add an entry door here on the corner of the property. Historically, on the property, this area was opened on the corner, and there was the entrance to the building located on the corner. And this is what the applicant is looking to have replaced back to how it was before from what it's currently.
So it mimics basically what's directly across the street.
Across the street, yeah, the night block, there's similar, same architect. And so,
but it's a similar thing with the entrance, right?
I believe
the pillar with the.
I believe so. Yeah.
That's
okay. The open. So here's another older image of the property where you can see that the pillars were still there, the columns, but the entry was open. So staff's reviewed this request and compared it with the standards for rehabilitation that we have in our city code for historic properties. This property is located in the downtown Provo Historic District. And so that's why that's coming before you today for a certificate of appropriateness for this request. Sorry, this keeps jumping. There we go. So here's another older image that kind of shows you a little bit closer detail of what it looked like before. This is the image we kind of have where we can see the underside, the soffit area of this location as well. And so the applicant has provided some drawings, some renderings showing what they would do, what it would look like. And that soffit underneath was something they were open for discussion with the Landmarks Commission on. Staff's suggestion would have been to provide, since we don't know what was there historically, that if it were like a wooden tongue and groove soffit underneath there, that would fit in with the property. And Here's some other renderings that the architect has provided, showing what that would look like. So yeah, there's that component of it. The other component is, so, we've kind of talked about how there was a opening there historically, and they're going back to that. We want to make sure that other historical features are preserved. And so while the glass and all of that isn't part of what was historically there, the storefront, the pillars and the capitals are on the columns there, those are still historic. And so let's see. So you can kind of see what those look like here. This is currently where the entrance is. It just goes straight upstairs, so you don't have access from Center Street to this area where a new tenant's looking to go. And so that's kind of the reason why they're looking to add a new entrance on the property, so that from Center Street, they'd have easy access to this space. Here's some closer details of those hand-carved capitals. Each one's unique. And as staff was looking at those, as you can kind of tell on some of them, where the existing storefront would be removed to open that space up, those areas have gone right through the capitals there. So part of staff's recommendation, one of the conditions is that those are preserved and maintained. And really, it's going to take a lot of careful detail as it's being removed to not cause more damage to those. I'm not sure what's preserved behind them, or if it would just be kind of blocked out when they created that storefront. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the architect that's here today has maybe more information on that, if they've looked into that a little bit more or not, to provide some more information. But yeah, so staff's recommendation would be to approve the certificate of appropriateness for this project with the conditions that the existing columns and hand-carved capitals and masonry works are not altered and are to be protected during construction, and that the new soffit material matches what is approved by the Landmarks Commission and should not protrude below the surrounding cornice trim. And so that's kind of one thing that's up for you guys to discuss with the architect as to what that soffit material should be and how it should be designed. So if you have any additional questions for me, I'd be happy to answer those this time.
Thank you, Dustin. So maybe for the newer commissioners, what we usually do is after the staff presents the item and explains the summary and the recommendations, we usually will ask the staff member everything we can think of, and hopefully a lot of it they haven't thought of before, so it puts them on the spot, which is really fun for Dustin. And then we'll hear from the applicant, and then we'll ask the applicant questions, and then maybe we'll have follow-up for Dustin, and then we have time for public input, and then we discuss it some more, and then at one point, if we feel like we've got a resolution, somebody will make a motion, and that needs to be seconded, then we vote. And typically, the motions would be, move that we adopt the staff recommendations, or a new recommendation, or a variation of the two. So does anybody have any questions for Dustin? And if you do, be sure you turn on your mic. I do have a question then. So that last part you asked Dustin about, let's see, should not protrude below the surrounding cornice trim. Can you describe that to me a little bit better?
Yeah, so just the new soffit that's going to fill in this space here when this is opened up, that it doesn't protrude below the edge line here. I don't know if I've got a better image that would show that,
Okay.
But
Okay.
that it would just be tucked up in there nice and not protrude below it, if that makes sense. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Yeah. Anybody else? Eric, do you have something?
We see the historic images again.
I just texted them to Scott and to Susan. Eric, I don't have your. You have, okay, great.
Is there a specific one you wanted me to go
Nope,
to?
I got it. Got what I needed. Thanks.
Okay.
From the renderings, yeah, I'm trying not to read too much into it, but it looks like all of the storefront is new. Is that being replaced as well, or would the new entry kind of match the existing?
That's a good question. We would follow up with the architect on that one. My understanding is that the existing storefront on the sides would remain as is, and that this would just be to remove the sections here on the corner and to add this new space right here in the center. But that's a good question. We can follow up, just make sure we're on the same page with the architect.
Thank you, Dustin. Why don't we hear from the applicant? And just introduce
Okay,
yourself.
thank you. Yeah.
I think you've been here before. with
I
us,
have.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, not here.
Well,
This is
you've been with the
exciting.
Landmark.
That's-
You've never been in this fancy.
This is the fanciest that it's
Yeah.
been. Yeah.
for sure.
So Jeff Knighton with Knighten Architecture, our office is here just down the street. And yeah, I'm here representing the architect or the applicant. We are working with the tenant, the Gem Studio, and then we also do work for the owners of the property as well. So yeah, I can answer some of those questions. And to the question on the storefront, yeah, it's just the entrance. The other glass that's on the sides on Center and University will stay as is. We just want to build out the new where the doors are basically.
Are you going to be matching the new with the same look as what's already existing then, or is it going to be a different?
Yeah, I mean, the storefront that's there, I mean, I think you saw in some of those close-ups that Dustin had, it's a pretty basic,
Yeah.
aluminum storefront. So yeah, it'd be similar.
Painted
We'd
the
want to
same
make
and-
it match and look as consistent, as we can to what's there and not really stark. This image is good because it kind of helps explain why they want the entrance. So the current entrance is actually on the university side, on the far side. So you come in there, and that's how exactly. And that's how you access the space. They want to connect better with the pedestrian activity of Center Street, with Center Street being a stronger pedestrian street than University Avenue. And so that's when I approached Dustin about it, said, hey, they want some connection here. He pulled up those historic images and was like, yeah, we actually had this corner entrance. So that was really cool and exciting to find out. Because they're a current tenant in downtown. They're a block west and then up north a little bit, but they're a thriving local business and they want more space. They want to connect better with Center Street. So that's why they will keep that entrance. This is where I was going. That entrance still on further north. That will still be an entrance, and that'll be their ADA entrance because the sidewalk is quite a bit lower than the floor. And we don't really have room to negotiate ramps and that kind of stuff in that corner. So there will be a step at the corner entrance, and then there'll be an ADA entrance on the further north side. So they'll have two entrances in. One thing I wanted to point out too is they're likely going to be occupying the space before this new entrance is installed and ready to go. And that's another reason they'll rely on that other entrance until they can get the reworking of that corner, ready to go.
Dustin, can we see those pictures that you showed, the close-up of the column capitals? maybe it's the multiple layers of paint, but don't see a aluminum storefront here. Am I reading that incorrectly?
It's,
Maybe another question, which is more of a follow-up question, would be, what kind of system are you thinking of using that can give you a similar look, but also I noticed your doors don't have much of a stile and rail system to them, right? So
yeah, they would just be glass for the most part, with a frame around it. There's on the outside, this right here, you can kind of see that's where the glazing sits in right here. And then as that comes down, I'm pretty sure that was aluminum. Did we check that? I don't know. It's got a ton of paint on it. It might not actually be aluminum. It might be wood, but it looks, when you get up close to it, it's pretty close to what you'd see in a newer building with the aluminum storefront.
okay, so if we went aluminum, it would look dramatically different from what's existing, both in color and profile, right? Clean profile versus the stepped profile for this. This looks like a wood system with wood stops for the window.
I'd have to
How
go
would
back
you
and double
reconcile
check
that
on it.
difference?
The intent is to match as close as we can.
Mhm.
We want it visually, not just from the historic standpoint, but just visually, they don't want it to look like it was this like out of place part of the facade. So it all looks consistent.
So if it was determined that this is a wood system, would you match it with a wood system?
I mean, they'd have to run their numbers and see how
Yeah.
it works out. And then timeframes, we've been finding, sometimes the wood windows are 6 months out.
Yeah. If it was determined to be a wood system, how would you reconcile the doors?
What do
We
you
look-
mean by that? Reconcile the doors?
So if you're going to match what's there, and it is determined that they're wood, the door system I would think logically have to follow suit, right? So a glass door with a metal perimeter wouldn't necessarily fit that. So then what would you do? Door system. If we look at.
Do you have
some
a
of the-
I mean, are you trying to or is there something that
Yeah.
you're looking for on that? They just want a door.
I don't have an ulterior.
We want an
motive.
open door, as much glass and to look consistent. So
If you look at one of the images with the WPA program on there, you can see a very traditional stile and rail door right there. So I'm just saying that it seems like to me there's a domino effect here, right? If we determine that's a wood storefront and you want to match the wood storefront, then there's a ripple effect as to what the door system is. Wondering what your thoughts were there.
I mean, they're going to try to find that balance, right? They want to make the entrance work. The gem studio guys are paying for this, so they're trying to do it as cost effective as they can.
Yeah.
The intent was never make it look like it used to from the door and the storefront side. We just want it to look consistent with what's there.
Well, and from a preservation standpoint, we don't want it to look exactly like it looks because we don't want people walking up to it and thinking that it's old
Right.
when
That we're
it's
recreating,
when it's
imitating.
new.
Yeah.
Right. But consistency. So Scott, what's your concern? Just so I understand better.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to get at is really simple. What is the
Material.
aluminum? Great. But if we're trying to match what is there, not necessarily preservation standpoint, aesthetically,
Mhm.
then it's my opinion that this
Is not an aluminum.
then my mind goes immediately to the details. Sorry, that's my
Sure.
personality. And so then I'm going to the doors, right? What are the doors? Then what's the hardware that you're going to use? How are we treating the column base? You know, are we just replastering, or I guess, Dustin, are those column bases, those a plaster? Can't remember now. It kind of looks
you'd
like
have
it.
to, I don't know if I can
Um,
move images or not.
Maybe it's those images that you provided that were supplemental to this. That's where I'm going. I'm not trying to advocate one way or the other. I'm just
Sure.
trying to figure out where you're at.
I'd be happy to go back and double check at, like it might be a wood system.
Mhm.
It looks, especially like, and I probably should know closer detail on what it was, but when we were down there, it looked like a storefront, like an
Yeah.
aluminum storefront system. If it needed to be a wood system, then, if that was a recommendation, then we'd have to just price that out and see what the details would come out to be. What they're looking for is simplicity. They want it to look consistent. Does it have to match exactly for them? No, they want it to, honestly, from the applicant side, they want a door. That's what they asked for. And as much glass, right? So people can see in. And then the rest of it is what can we, propose and provide that is agreeable for you as the commission. And then obviously at the end of the day for them, what, from a cost standpoint, what they can pull off, but that they want a door. They wanted the door actually in a slightly different location. They wanted it further down on Center. So right, perpendicular off Center Street, not necessarily on the corner. But when I met with Dustin, we talked about, well, there's the precedent for it at the corner. And as you come down Center, you get closer to that little stair that goes up. I think that if it wasn't a historical precedent to have the door on the corner, we would have never been able to come in and sell you guys on putting a door in the corner. So I explained that to the applicant. I said, this is actually great from a visibility standpoint and a connection. You'll have this corner on the most prominent corner entrance on the most prominent intersection, Provo.
Yeah.
And so now they're excited about that, and having the door there. But yeah, at the end of the day, they want a door. The details we're totally open on it, as long as it's
Matt, direction here, it says, sorry, I'm reading the staff report here, but what they're asking for, or the thing that we're actually here for, is for appropriateness for a corner entrance. Is that?
Yes, right, Dustin? Is that?
Yes,
I defer
we're-
all your questions to Dustin. He's the brains.
Yeah, so
I'm the eye candy.
Okay.
the Landmarks Commission is looking at, will it be appropriate to provide this entrance on the corner? And will it, help maintain the historic character of the existing structure, or will it detract and have negative impacts on it? And that's kind of what we're weighing out. At the same time, the next step for the applicant, if they get a certificate of appropriateness, would be to submit a building permit that would have those details. So direction that we get from Landmarks Commission as far as materials and components like that of how it should look is what we'll be looking for when they submit their building permit, which wouldn't come back to Landmarks Commission. So
as far as materials go, that's kind of a sidebar.
yeah, it's
Not the
part.
purpose of why we're here.
To quote somebody else, it was the weeds. I think is what you called it.
Fair statement.
It's interesting though.
Okay.
I mean, to the point though, so Dustin, as you understand the city code with landmarks, would it matter if it's wood or aluminum?
So if the existing storefront was the historic one, then I think we would definitely be looking to match it.
Okay.
We know that based on the photos that this storefront that's there now isn't the historic one. So we're not necessarily trying to go back to what the original was. I think what the intent here is that we match what's currently there. So if it's wood, then we should probably do wood so that it matches. If it's aluminum, then aluminum sounds appropriate. I think that's what Mr. Bingham's trying to identify here, and not that we go back to what the original one, which was probably wood. That's not what we're looking at for that.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, is that you can, as you kind of file that away and start?
Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll go back in and we'll get for the building permit application, assuming we're cleared here today, then we'll make sure as part of our details, for the building permit, we'll show kind of what the existing profiles are and what's proposed, and if it's an aluminum with some other treatment to it, or if we can do it with wood, we'll look at that. And so those details will be in in our drawings for the permit application.
Okay.
The one question and that Dustin did bring up on this was like the Soffit treatment, in there. There doesn't appear to, that right now there's nothing there, right? And from looking at the historic photos, it's vague. So we thought we could just do, paint, plaster, smooth finish, basically in that Soffit area. We also, the station 22, the balcony or station 22's got that tongue and groove kind of wood soffit. And they're gonna have wood on the interior, I believe as well. Of
They being
space, the Gem Studio.
Gem Studio.
So we could, the concern would be what Dustin did bring up is, and then we'd have to, I guess, just look at this in our details. If we did a tongue and groove wood soffit, as long as that plane of the soffit doesn't drop below, the trim details, around the base there where the windows are, that would be the detail we'd want to make sure we have clean,
So then as far as the staff recommendation goes with that second recommendation, those conditions, I guess, you don't see an issue with
we're
that?
open.
Okay.
Either, if there's a preference from the commission one way or the other.
What about the first condition with the capitals?
Yeah, certainly. We'll want to make sure. So I don't know until we take the storefront. I mean, you could see one of those pictures. Some of them go up through it, like they cut it away.
Right.
And one cuts off at an angle.
Yeah.
And I don't know why.
Because we didn't exist. That's why.
Well, we find the funniest things all over this building all the time.
It seems to me that the original plane, the window plane, was stepped further back. You can see that in the middle bottom. You can see how the capital stops right there behind the glass. To me, that seems like that's where the original plane of the storefront was.
Oh, back there, that far back.
Well, and also that's where, the storefront wasn't, so that's where they filled in that corner.
Right. So in
Right.
between,
Yeah.
those capitals come all the way around, and that's just
Right.
a wood treatment over the top. You're going to be working with the caulk to get that out of the
Yeah,
cracks,
they'll
and
have to-
otherwise, I think you'll be left with a beautiful capital.
Yeah. That would be my guess, is once we take that off, if they can clean it off the best they can, then what was there, I don't think was removed.
Susan, do you have a question?
No, my biggest concern is the capitals, and I'm glad you're addressing it.
Yeah, there's certainly no plan to modify them in any way.
Eric, do you have anything? Jesse? Anything else, Mr. Bingham? Okay. Is there anything else you want to mention?
I don't think so.
We're grateful
Okay,
that,
awesome.
that we're here. Is there anybody online for the public comment section? Oh, because of COVID's over. Well, ish. Got it. Okay. And I guess you're not technically a public. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, yeah,
Very, very
you bet.
much.
Thank you.
But stand by, we might have more questions.
I won't be far.
Thank you. So what's next, commissioners? Anything you want to bring up?
I move we accept the staff report,
With the conditions?
the staff records, the conditions.
Okay, are we ready for, does anybody have any debate before we hear the motion? A second?
I will second.
Okay. Moved in second, all in favor of accepting the staff recommendation with the two condition, let's see, the staff recommendation that we approve a landmark certificate of appropriateness for new entrance to be installed on the corner of Provo Town Square located at 12th West Center Street with the following conditions: that one, the existing columns and hand-carved capitals and masonry works are not altered and are to be protected during the construction, and two, the new soffit material matches what is approved by the Landmarks Commission and should not protrude below the surrounding cornice trim. And if we're okay, we'll allow the, oh, Scott?
So in that, right there, you just said what was okayed by the land.
By us, yeah.
So what was that okay? Was it,
We didn't discuss it.
so
Dustin?
can I add a rider in here?
Yeah, yeah.
Whether it's plaster, which is appropriate, or the tongue and groove wood ceiling, I think those are both appropriate solutions, and leave it up to the applicant.
Dustin, are we okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor? Say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Okay, motion passes. Congratulations and
you.
thank you. So what is the Gem Studio?
They do custom jewelry with gems.
So it's not like dancing gems then, is what
No,
I was
but
thinking. maybe.
they're like booked months out.
Really?
now, Their location that they have.
Yeah,
They're opening in Hawaii and Arizona and Salt Lake,
cool.
all over. But yeah, you can do workshops where you go in and learn how to make the jewelry.
Awesome.
Like build a bear for jewelry,
What's that?
like build a bear for jewelry.
Kind of, yeah. But then they'll also have their that'll be their headquarters. So they're gonna have a little office space in the back of it too. So
Cool.
this will be their home base.
That's great. Thank you very
Yeah, you
much.
bet. Thank you.
Dustin, do we have anything else?
That was our only item for today. So.
Okay. Do we have any other business we need to discuss? Okay. Yeah, yeah. It'll be nice to have a regular door. I'm excited. We'll have a door right there. That's kind of cool. Yeah, I didn't need that. WPA photo is really cool. Okay, well, we're adjourned.